Hello everyone, myself Sowmya, Assistant Professor in CSE AIML Department, MLR Institute of Technology. So in this video, we are going to see about AngularJS form validation. So how to validate the form in AngularJS. So here in this video, we are going to discuss about how to validate the form. So to validate the form, you are using some states. So the states may be form states or input states, and we will also see some programs for doing the form validation. So we know that it's not a backend or server-side program. So generally the validation will be done at server side. So in the previous videos, that JavaScript also we have seen the form validation. So whatever it may be, JavaScript, AngularJS. So at client side you are doing some validation. So at client side you can do the validation, either it may be JavaScript or you can also use this AngularJS. So AngularJS offers what? It offers the client side form validation. So now here you can check. The input data, text area data, selection data. The user will enter those data and you need to check whether the data is valid or not. So for that purpose we are using some predefined controls. So what are the different controls we will see. So before going to the controls, we will see how to validate the form initially, basic level. So this is a required field you are using. Of course, we know required field. When I use required field, the field is mandatory. So without entering the value in that field, you can go further. So this is mandatory for AngularJS applications. I'm just creating a ng app for the body application. Then I'm printing some paragraph. Then after that, I'm creating a form. For this form, I'm giving a name. So the name is my form. And here I'm creating a text field. So input name is equal to my input. Input name is equal to my input. And ng model I am giving, the model name is again my input. See, if you observe here, previously we used to give only the ng model, but here I am also using the name. So we will see. I'll tell you why I'm using this name, and I'm making this field as required. So here I'm creating a form. The name of the form I'm giving as my form. And here I'm creating a text field. For this text field I'm giving name and ng model also. Both I'm giving as same. But till previous programs we used to give only the ng model. But here I'm also giving the name. So I'll tell you why I'm giving. And I'm making this field as mandatory by writing required attribute. Then I'm closing the form. So now I need to check whether the value or whether this field is valid or not. So what I'm printing, the input's valid state. So whatever the input you have created, the state of that. So how I am printing that? I am printing that by accessing this field. How I can access this field? The name of the form, my form. The name of the field, my input, $, $valid. So $valid is a predefined control, predefined state. It will check whether a text field or whether a particular input control is valid or not. So it will return true or false value. If it is valid, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. When I can say a text field is valid, when some text is available in the text field, then I can say it is valid. If the text is not available, if it is empty, then I can say it is invalid. So obviously initially nothing will be there in your text field. So initially I should get false. But if you enter anything in your text field, this value should be changed to the true. So what it indicates, this $valid indicates what? The state of the input control, the state of that field, particular field. So for this purpose only, I am using names here for the form as well as input also. We'll try to execute this. So initially I am getting false, right? In this, if I enter anything, immediately that value will be changed to true. So that is the use of state. So next, in the previous program we checked for the text field. So now in this program we will check for the email field. So now we know this is common, and in the body, whole body I am making as AngularJS by writing ng app. Now I am writing some paragraph to try writing an email address in the input field. So I am creating an input field here. The type for this is a email. For this I am giving name as well as ng model. This field you are creating within the form. For this form also I am giving some name. And after creating this field I am closing the form. So now how I can access this? My form dot my input. So now I'm checking the valid state, whether the state is valid or not. So here you're checking the valid state for an email. So initially if no email is there, if the box is empty, by default you will get true only. But after starting entering the email address, it will become false, and if it finds @ symbol in your value, then only again the value will be changed to true. So we'll see. So here how I'm printing that validity state. My form is the name of the form, my input is the name of the email field, and $valid. We are checking whether it is valid or not. So the particular email field is valid or not, you are checking using this $valid state. That's all. What is the paragraph message I'm displaying? Note that the state of the input field is true before you start writing in it. So initially it is true only, even if it doesn't contain an email address. So that is empty, but by default it is true only for the email field. But if we see the previous text field, it was false only. But for the email field, it is true only. But whenever you start entering, it will expect one @ symbol. Otherwise, it will be changed to false. So this is the output here. If you enter any email address, the value will be changed to true. But before entering email address also, it will be true only. We'll see. We'll try to execute this. So initially, if I don't have any value in the field, it is true. So now if I type something, if I enter one letter, it is becoming false. If I enter @ and after that if I enter one letter, after @ if I enter one letter, then it will becoming true. So that is the use of checking the state, checking the validity of an email input, email control. So form states and input states. So just now we have seen in the previous programs $valid. So $valid, we are checking the validity of a particular field. So the particular field, in the sense, it comes under input state. And if you are checking whole form, you are checking for the whole form, then it comes under form states. So first we will see the input states, the basic input states. We have all these states to check the validity of a particular input field. So first one is $untouched. All these are actually a Boolean values. It will return either true or false. So first one is $untouched. So what this field indicates, the field has not been touched yet. So if it is not been touched yet, then it will indicate that. $touched. If it is touched, then you can mention that using $touched. $pristine. So the field has not modified yet. So you have given some value, but you have not been modified yet, then that can be indicated using $pristine. Dirty. If you have been modified, then indicated by dirty. Invalid. So previous program we have seen valid. If it is valid, you are checking valid. If it is not valid, you are checking for $invalid. So all these controls either give true or false. So based on the usage, you need to use that. And coming to the form. So previous states, all these states comes under input controls, and coming to the form, for whole form you can apply at a time $pristine. So no fields have been modified yet. In the form you have multiple fields, but no field has been modified yet. Dirty. If any one of the form, if any one of the field has modified. Invalid. So if any field is not valid, then you can use this. Valid. All the fields are valid. The form content is valid. The whole form content is valid. Submitted. The form is submitted. So for this you can use this. And again, all these values are again Boolean. It will give either true or false. So based on our requirement, we can use them. So we'll see one example here. Here we know this is common. And now I'm giving the name of the form as my form and creating a text field. So here the type of the field is text field. Now for this I'm giving a name as my name. Model name is also same thing. So what I'm doing, I'm using a span tag. Span tag in the sense there is no text initially, but whenever you do some mistake mentioned in the span tag, that will be spanned automatically. So span ng show. When I need to show this, see, ng show will provide some condition. If that condition is true, then the text will be spanned. What is this text it is spanning? The name is required. It is the text. But when this text will be spanned, when it will be displayed, when this condition is true. What is this condition? My form dot my name $touched. When the form field is touched and myform.myname.invalid. So you have touched it, but it is not valid. How I can say a text field is not valid? If the text field is not containing any text, then it is considered as not valid, invalid. So we have a text field, you touched it, but you are not entering any text. Then in that case, what I need to span here? The name is required. I am closing the form. Then I am giving some message, paragraph message here. So this is the output I will get. So name, nothing is there in the name. But if you touch this and if it is empty, then the message will be spanned. The name is required. So we'll try to execute this. So initially I'm not getting anything. Now I'm just touching, but I'm not entering. See, I'm just touching and I'm coming out of that box. Then immediately I'm getting the message, the name is required. So now if I write something, that will be gone. So that is the use of checking the input field. So now we will see the form validation program. So here in this program, you're checking for a particular username and password. If the given username matches with your username and if given password matches with the corresponding password, then only you're giving some successful page. Otherwise, you are giving some failure message. So we know this is common for all the AngularJS application. I'm making a division for my AngularJS application where I'm writing ng app and ng controllers. That means it's a complicated or complex program where you're going to develop some modules and controllers. Now here I'm creating a form. So form, name of the form is login form, ng submit, another new directive. So whenever you submit this form, call this function. What is the function? Submit form. So here I'm giving a label. The label name is username followed by one text field. For this text field, I'm giving the user name as well as model also. Now, after this text field, I am writing a span. So when it will be spanned, if this condition is true, what it will span? Username is required. What is the condition? ng show login form, the name of the form dot the name of the full username touched. It is touched and username dot error. So error in the sense, if you do any error there, automatically it will give a message username dot required. So error we didn't check, right? It may be a valid or invalid, you can use here. Error in the sense, if it is not valid, then you can give this message username is required. So here instead of error, you can also write $valid, invalid. So it is touched and you didn't enter any text, and in that case you will get the message username is required. The same way you're also creating one more field for password. So password label followed by password field, name and model name I'm giving as same, and here a message will be spanned. What is the message? Password is required. When it will be spanned, again the same thing, ng show login form password touched and it is error. So it is touched and error is generated. I mean it is not valid. Then in that case this message will be displayed. Now, so here div ng show, and after that, after creating all these things, I am creating ng show. So what it will show? Invalid credentials. It will show the invalid credentials. So this is a variable name. So we will see what is that variable. It will be displayed in red color. So just to show the error message, I am using red color here in the style. So what is the message it is showing? Invalid username or password. Please try again. So ng show, it is matching with some invalid credentials. It's a variable that we will see. So if it is matching with that, we are displaying some value invalid username as password. Please try again. That means invalid credentials, what it may be? It may be true or false. If it is true, then display this message. If it is false, don't display this message. That's all. You're closing this division. And after this division, you're creating a button. So button type is equal to submit and the name of the button is login. That's all. You're closing your form tag and you're closing your AngularJS by closing the division. So now I'm opening a script tag to define the module. So what is the module name? User validation app. For this module, I'm creating a controller called user controller. Now, we have two variables here. One is username and the other one is password. So what are these two things? I didn't use any of these variables, right? What are these variables? ng models. See here, ng model name of first field, ng model name of second field. How I can access these two values in the module? Using $scope. So $scope.username initially it is empty, $scope.password initially it is empty. Now I am taking two more values here, valid username, valid password. So valid username is user123, valid password is pass123. That means whatever the user is entering, those values will be checked with these two values. If the user enters these two values, yes, they are valid. Otherwise, if the user enter any of the values which is not matching with this, then I should get a warning message. I mean like false message. So here I told you that we have a variable here. What is that? Invalid credential. It's a variable. How I am assigning $scope.invalid credentials, initially you are assigning value as false. So now submit form, whenever on submit with the form, I am calling on submit. See here, where is the form? Here. So form name is equal to login form, ng submit. So whenever you submit this form, submit form function should execute. So that I am defining here. $scope dot, the name of the function is submit form, and then you are defining a function. What is this function? It is checking our username, $scope.username, whatever the value entered by the user in the text field. We have two text fields here. One is for username and the other one password. If this value is matching with the valid username, we have given one valid username user123, and if this password is matching with the valid password, then what I need to give? Generate an alert message. What is this alert message? Login successful, welcome. The username, whatever the username you enter here, the same value will be present here. And you're making invalid credentials as false. Why I'm making this value? Why? Because I told here to spam this message. See here, ng show, when it will be shown invalid credentials. When this value is true, if the user enters invalid credentials, automatically I should get this message, invalid username or password. So this if condition is for valid details. If it is valid, I should not get that message. How I can confirm that? How I can indicate that? By making this value as false. So now this is over. If the values are not matching, else what I need to do? Make this invalid credentials as true. If you make this invalid credentials as true, then you will get that red message. Username or password are not matching. Try again like that. That's all your closing script, body and HTML. So this is the output. You will get username and password. If both are correct, then you will get the message like this. Login successful, welcome. The username is user123. We'll execute this. So I am getting username and password. So I am just placing the cursor, but I am coming out of that. Then immediately this message is spammed. What is that? Username is required. So to differentiate this labels and this message, you can make it in red color. And now I am placing cursor in password, but coming out of that. Then immediately this message is spammed. That is password is required. So now I am entering the correct values, user123 and pass123. If I click on this, see immediately I am getting this login successful, welcome user123. Now, if I enter some other values, user and the password is correct. If I click on it, see I am getting this red message. This is invalid credentials, invalid username as password. Please try again. Right? So this is the output for this form validation. So this is about form validation. To perform that form validation or to check the validity of the form, you're using some input controls as well as form controls like $dirty, $pristine, $valid, $invalid and so on. And we have seen all these form state and input states, and we have also seen the form validation example application in this video. Thank you.